Hi everyone, welcome to another short video where I'm going to explain portfolio assessment, and then we're going to look at a video of portfolio assessment and come back to discuss that a little more in depth. So first of all, let's start by looking at a brief overview of portfolio assessment. What is a portfolio? Well, a portfolio is a collection of student writing and various artifacts related to that writing. So in a classroom, if you assign a writing portfolio, it would include multiple drafts of student writing, like the rough draft, the first draft, second draft, etc. And it would have rough drafts and final drafts of multiple pieces of writing, so different genres. You guys in your portfolio project, you're sort of designing a portfolio project to assign in a classroom. So a portfolio would also include things like teacher notes, student notes, any kind of feedback the student got, peer reviews, self-assessments, and very importantly, the reflections of the writer. The portfolio is the outcome of a long-term process. When learners put their portfolio together, they may have written more pieces than they include in the portfolio. So maybe they wrote 5 different genres and they decide to put into their portfolio 3 that they think best represent themselves as writers. And again, there's also reflection, so they need to explain why they chose these pieces and self-evaluate in terms of thinking about what they liked about the particular pieces that they include in the portfolio. Writing portfolios evolved from old style writing folders. It goes with the writing process approach because you have students go through multiple drafts and go through different kinds of feedback and evaluation in order to create a final product. So they're not just evaluated based on a single piece of writing that you assign, they turn in, and then they get a grade on it. Allows them to go through the process and to be graded on the final piece that they ended up turning in. So along with that, they would include any checklists they might have filled out, or their pre-writing, their topic lists, their reflections, notes on their writing conferences, and any observations you may have had. So here's a typical writing portfolio, and you can pause the video to take a closer look at it, but you can see that it's really like a physical portfolio, and it includes entries such as their various work in different genres, projects, or artwork. So it kind of depends upon what you're trying to accomplish in your curriculum and what you want them to show. There's also aspects that show the writing process. So, any kind of pre-writing or revisions and drafts and strategies that they engaged in are also included. It really depends upon what you are attempting to teach the students and what you want them to show in the writing portfolio. Writing portfolios are formative assessment. If you recall, we talked about formative assessment as more of a discovery, diagnosing issues, and understanding learners in more detail. So formative assessment also involves the learner in a more active role. So as opposed to summative assessment, where the teacher does all of the assessing, formative assessment is more about identifying both strengths and students' need for improvement, but students are more actively involved, and it also affects instruction as a course is going on. So you can decide how to support learners in their growth. Portfolios are a form of direct assessment, and recall that direct assessment is where you assess students' actual written work, right? That they perform some kind of written task, and you can actually see their actual writing. Indirect assessment, on the other hand, is where you might just grade their vocabulary or spelling or something like that, and you don't actually look at their writing. Direct assessment is assessment of actual authentic writing. Portfolios are also classroom-based. So classroom-based is as opposed to standardized, right? If you recall, classroom-based assessment is conducted by teachers and learners in the classroom based on the instruction and curriculum that's happening in that classroom, and it compares student performance to classroom expectations. On the other hand, if you recall, standardized assessment is norm-based, and it's not based on what's actually happening in the classroom, but based on standards that are set outside of the classroom, and students' performance is compared to norms of large-scale sets of people who take that test and what the sort of average score or average performance would be. So classroom-based assessment is more about students' performance based on what the teacher expects and wants them to learn in her classroom or his classroom. Why are portfolios beneficial for writing instruction? Well, it provides the teacher information about the learner's strategic activity, the learner's growth as a writer, and the learner's growth as a reflective learner, an active learner, one who can think about their own learning and their own writing in reflective, complex ways. It also provides the learner information about his own writing process, his own use of strategies, how his writing compares to explicit criteria like in rubrics or checklists. And the learner can see his or her own growth as a writer and set his or her own goals for continued growth. So it's really more active and providing a lot more information to the learner about his or her own writing and his or her self as a writer. Portfolios capture students' accomplishment. They document growth over time. They document learning outcomes through direct instruction and actual performance. It can be highly tailored and differentiated and personalized to individual students' needs. So you can, instead of just comparing students to like a grade level standard, what you're doing here is seeing where did the learners start out and how much did they grow. Maybe they're still below basic, or maybe they're still below the standard, but you can see where they started and how far they came, which is just awesome and is so much more useful. It's based on student performance on authentic writing tasks, so it's more valid. It has a lot more validity than standardized tests or more summative types of assessment. And it allows greater sensitivity to other kinds of differences, gender, race, ethnicity, social background, other things like that. So there you go. Let's look at a video of portfolio assessment and get into more depth on this.